fashion, I am building this bench out of all scrap wood. This was a piece of a cabinet that somebody threw into the garbage on a construction site we were working on. And I dug it out of the garbage. Nice piece of old fir 3/4 plywood. I have this old solid 3/4 inch hardwood. It's got finish on it. I'm gonna make this countertop. It's gonna be 3/4 plywood with 3/4 hardwood flooring on it, and I'm gonna glue and nail that down and clean it all up and make a hell of a nice bench. All reclaimed, recycled stuff. So I'm going to biscuit joint this plywood together. You know, I could have cut one long piece, but this is a scrap piece, and I want my grain going this way because my hardwood's going this way, and if the plywood and the hardwood are both going the same way, you're going to get a big cup. Alright, so I got my biscuit joiner all marked out here. Okay, well, I tried to take advantage of that glorious sunshine out there today, but you know what? I don't want to drip glue on my concrete outside, so in the shop we are. So, I'll clean out these little holes here and make sure there's no dust inside them grooves for the biscuits. Let's get those set a little bit. Pretty good, just like that. Let's do the other one. Damn good. Make sure I got my joints lined up. Not bad. Not bad. One more right in the middle on the bottom. I don't think we need it. That's all we need right there. I just need to clamp it to make sure we're straight now with a big straight edge. That looks like a factory edge right there. Set that up there and see where we're at. That's pretty darn good. I'll put a couple clamps on that just to hold it straight, double check it on the outside edges. good. Pretty straight. Okay, good morning everybody. We are back in the shop. It's Sunday morning. I started that bench yesterday. You saw we cut the plywood and I biscuit jointed it all together. Glued it up. Today I'm going to take it out of the clamps. I'm going to lay it on the floor. We're going to sand some of that paint off because remember, we're building this thing completely out of recycled, reclaimed old junk lumber that was going in the garbage. Let's get started. So there we have what we left yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and pull those clamps off and set that thing on the floor and get a floor sander and sand that paint. And I got to tell you, when you cut it like that and laminate it all together with the grain going this way, so my flooring's going this way, this thing is straight as a pancake and strong as hell. All biscuit jointed together like that. It's gonna be great. So there you can see kind of what the shape of this thing is going to be. That's about how big it's going to be. It's going to have some overhangs. And like I said, this thing is going to be one big solid top that I'm going to be able to just lift off of here and still use that as a welding bench if need be. Okay, to sand this baby, I think I'm going to break out the old Randmeister here. This is the first edger I ever purchased when I started the wood flooring business back in 1996. So you can see it's a little funky. It still works like a top. We just don't use it because the Super 7s work so much better, but that there is a relic, baby. An old Randmeister. You know, I think I'm gonna break out this old Clark Model C5 that I've had for a long, long time also. It's actually a 6-inch disc, whereas, let me check that might be a problem. Oh yeah, it's a 5-inch disc. We don't use this edger very much. Matter of fact, we don't use it at all. But it's around. It's actually a darn good old edger. I'm gonna lube it up a little bit and use this just for scuffing up this plywood. Just because I want to use the old girl. Check that thing out. Now that is a relic from the past. Well, I guess the first thing we ought to do is test it out, see if it works. Look at that. This has the switch underneath the handle. This thing is truly an old battle wagon. Not only does it work, but it sounds great. I'm gonna put some new sandpaper on it and go to town. So let's remember, I'm not sanding this all off. I'm just gonna clean it up so my glue sticks pretty good. Now let's just see how this works. Really, I should be on the floor, but maybe I can manhandle this up here. There it is. I get it all looking like that. It's gonna be great. So there, that took about 10 minutes tops to bring that down where I want it, and only one piece of sandpaper. So I'm going to start installing some wood on this next. Okay, so I squared off that edge on the table saw. You can see this has holes in it. That's where the old nails were that nailed it down. And the floor it came off of. A customer that I did a floor for took this out of his house, and he wanted to reuse it, but we were putting in so much new stuff it wasn't the right thing, so we're gonna actually use it. So I'm just lining that up on the edge of my plywood, and I have a nice straight edge on that plywood. So that's what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna glue that, and I'm just gonna finish nail it down. I got my old Senko nailer here. This is another relic from the past. They don't make this kind anymore. An 1.25" 15 gauge nails, and And I'm gonna be face nailing that, and then I'm gonna start side nailing them as I go along and gluing them down with some Franklin Tight Bond. I think I'm going to get a real flooring nailer. I can do it right here on the bench. Okay, the flooring nailer is all set up. Got my 1.5" nail so it won't go through the bottom. Same way we install over a concrete floor with a 3/4 plywood subfloor. So let's just give that a try. Close that gap right up. Perfect. Okay, I ended up with just about 1.25" on the last little strip here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that piece down and face nail it. Then I'm going to cut my ends, and we're going to run this thing through the table saw and square it all up before we put the edges on it. You know, I almost kind of like that, just to leave that patina on there, that old-fashioned hardwood floor look. But no, we're going to sand it all up, start from scratch. It's going to look like brand new when we get done. So let's just square these ends up. Cut this sucker off. Make sure I get my plywood out there. Okay, so I squared it up. I set my depth and I put a board under it so I'm not cutting into these 2x4s. Just the hardwood and the plywood. I'm going to try out this new saw for the first time on a real project and see how it works. Well, that's like near perfection right there. Check that out. Very nice cut. By the time I edge band that with a nice piece of 3" solid oak, it's going to look beautiful. Do the other side. I like that too. You know, after I get the whole thing installed, I putting away the scraps, and then I see this board. Look at that. That's a beautiful piece of quarter sawn red oak. That would have been so nice. You know, I could have weeded through the whole pile and found all the quarter sawn and put it in here. Would have made this a really cool bench. But anyway, that's some quarter sawn. Really nice wood. Well, I had to get Charles out here to help me with this heavy thing. Well, you can see how heavy this thing was. I had to have Charles come out and help me lift it. I mean, I could have done it, but if you don't have to lift heavy stuff, don't do it. So I am going to use the old Landmeister here to sand this thing. So I set it on the floor. I'm going to sand it just like I would sand a wood floor. Pretty much, it is a wood floor. Look at that, the light still works. Nice. So after roughing this floor off with this Brandmeister, it really lets me know why we switched over to Clark's. This is a great sander, man. The German engineering that goes into these Hummels is second to none. But you know, it's belt driven, whereas the little Super 7s that we use are direct drive. They just cut way. I could have done this in half the time with a Clark. These are a much more precision tool, but they just don't quite do what the Clark. Pretty much the same procedure as a wood floor. I'm just not going to trowel it. I'm just going to use my little 4-inch broad knife here. Okay, that's it on this project for today. I got some other stuff I got to go do. So there we go. We got it all filled. I'm ready to sand that and put the edges on it. Top will almost be done as soon as I get some finish coats. Okay, back on the bench today. So these are the boards I'm going to use for my rails. I'm going to cut the tongue and groove off, and we're going to attach those onto the sides like this. I'm going to square them off. These are my ends. So we're just going to butt the joints on those. I'm going to attach those. I'm going to sand it a little bit. Then I'm going to sand the whole top. First piece, let's glue this sucker on here. Just like that. Much better. Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like my old Senko is relegated to smaller projects. Okay, and we're just going to start filling all those little nail holes and everything. We use the same Woodwise putty that I use on floors. Pretty good stuff. Dries harder than rock. Alright, so I have my edges on, and I went around and filled all the nail holes along there, and I filled this little small gaps around the edges here where I nailed that edge banding on, or the edge of that countertop. So, you know, I should wait till that dries. You can see it's still a little wet, but I'm just going to sacrifice a couple of these, and I'll probably have to come back and spot fill later. Continue on with that. Probably gonna take me a half hour or so. We are gonna put a 1/4 inch bullnose. I think that's plenty. I have this router all set up. We did a little test on this board here. So we are gonna run it on this table. I'm saying that is perfect. I'm going to do it on the bottom edge, the top edge, and the corners. Okay, I'm just going to hit this thing with a little bit of 120 grit on my vibrating sander here. Okay, time for some finish. We're going to be using some Glitzer floor finish. I'm going to finish this just like we do a floor. But I'm using the toxic stuff all the way through. Let's just get a nice little pile of that stuff on there. Okay, so there is 2 coats on the new bench top. You know, I'm not really sure how I want to do the carcass on this, but I'm going to get started on making the little surround carcass for the bottom of this bench. I have the plywood over there I bought yesterday, $72 for 1 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. Yeah, and then later today I'm going to sand this and put the final coat on it, and then the top will be done. So I got these little brackets I made. I don't want to drill into that steel, so I just made these little brackets. And unscrew right into that plywood. And that's going to hold this stuff in place pretty darn good. See there? Just a little clamp that just holds it on. And I'll probably put a little pleat along the bottom. Okay, so there's the front. I just face nailed that right into the end grain of that. I'm going to make some little corner trims for that. Okay, these are just going to get a quick coat of some tung oil. Just like that. Okay, we're going to take this thing, set it on here, center it up, put some cleats around it, get ready to put the final coat on it. White sun. What a nice top. Never had a bench like this before in my life. Alright, so I'm going to get ready to sand that thing up, put a coat on it later tonight after the dust settles in the shop. There it is. Just hold it in place so it don't slide around, and I can lift it right off of here. Okay, so it's time to sand this thing down with 220 grit. I have my 220 grit here. I have my trusty old quarter cable my brother gave me this years ago. He didn't like it. And it's not good for doing a lot of sanding, but for doing stuff like this, it seems to work pretty good just for a little inner coat abrasion. I'm going to wear a particle mask. Remember back in the days when we used to wear particle masks because there were actually particulate in the air? I still wear it when I'm sanding. Okay, so just a simple little sand on there. And that is all. I'm going to vacuum that off, let the dust settle in here. So there you have it. It's sanded, it's vacuumed. Later on tonight, I'm gonna come in here with a very dry, damp cloth, wipe that down, put a coat on it, leave it till tomorrow. We'll be just about done. See you later. That's it. I'm gonna mix up some schmoo. I've got my Swedish finish here and my brush all ready. I'm gonna mix those up, coat this thing. Okay, here we go. The top coat. Okay folks, this is going to conclude this video. You know, this is the new little shop bench I made. This thing is solid as a rock. I almost hate to scratch it, but you know what? We're going to use this thing and we're going to start building some more shop projects on this thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I have the rest of the day off. I think I'm going to go take a ride in the White Room.